Okay, so a bit of an update here on the Tamiya Dynastorm project. So what do I have? Well, I have parts of it built. We have the front bulkhead, front shock tower, front arms, most of the front kind of put together here. These aluminum parts, by the way, I forgot the name of the guy that made them, but you can find them on eBay. These fit very nicely, and they're very beautifully made. So big thumbs up to the quality of these parts. They're very nice. They also have the added benefit of little grub screw mounting positions to hold the hinge pins on for the inner hinge pins for the arms, both front and rear, I believe. Is there a grub screw thing here? Yeah, right there on the side. You can see a little grub screw thing right there. So there's that. A few things about what's on the chassis so far. These arms, if I remember correctly, I got these from JC Racing Products. These are actually super astute arms, if I remember correctly. So they do fit the Dynastorm perfectly. You don't have to modify anything to a first order, but the geometry is slightly different. So one thing is the actual positioning of the holes for the shocks. The holes are essentially one or two positions outwards from where the Dynastorm holes are. Now, if you're running on modern high grip tracks, that's actually probably preferred. But if you're going to run on outdoor bumpy, kind of loose surfaces, then you'll want the original Dynastorm geometry, because that puts the shocks further inwards, makes them a little softer. Now, if you're going to do that and you want spare arms, you can get 3D printed Dynastorm arms. I have seen those available. But I'm going to run these because the tracks I expect to run this on is going to be either hard packed dirt or AstroTurf. I'll probably run this on AstroTurf, just so that I can put a silver can motor in it and not beat the car up too much, hopefully. In any case, super astute arms, front and rear. Same thing with the rear, by the way. With the hole mounting positions, they are pushed outwards a little bit more. So that's number one. Number two is the opening for the front caster block on the super astute arms is wider than what it is for the Dynastorm. For the Dynastorm, the front caster block slots right in, and there's no adjustment forward or backward for where you can space it. And that's really the case on most two-wheel drive buggies. But for this, because the opening is wider, okay, there's more of a gap here between the caster block and the actual arm itself. So I used, I think it's about 3 millimeters of spacing here on the front side to push the caster block back. The reasoning for that is because the arm itself naturally pushes this whole mounting point forward more compared to the Dynastorm arms. So by pushing it back, that gets me closer to the stock, the original positioning, the original geometry for where this spindle carrier should be placed to get the correct Ackerman for the car. So that's number one. Still using the stock steering rack for this. There aren't that many aftermarket parts for the Dynastorm, so for now I'm going to use the stock plastic rack. The plastic seems, even though it's ABS plastic, it's bulky enough that it should be okay, and I will be using a servo saver. But again, thankfully, there is a guy that makes 3D printed parts for the steering rack, for the bulkhead, for the arms, so I do plan on ordering those at some point. Going to the back here, I really haven't done too much with the back other than just to mount the arm mounts, the rear arm brace, the arms, and this little guy right here. It's kind of interesting that they put a brace on between the left and right hinge pins for the rear arms. Normally you would see a brace like this on the front arms on, again, most two-wheel drive buggies. But they have one on the rear, and that was a Tamiya design, so I thought that was kind of interesting. Now the next thing I was going to work on was the gearbox, and this would have been a simple affair were it not for two things. First, the fact that these spur gears are almost impossible to find. So if you strip one, good luck finding a new one. And it's a Tamiya pitch spur gear. You can get them in, I think, Tamiya pitch, and they also made a 64 pitch version to make the car quieter and more efficient. But these are custom spur gears. There's like one place on eBay that has them for something like $50 for a pair of Tamiya pitch and 64 pitch, which is just ridiculous. I'd like to run 48 pitch spur gears. just to have commonality across all my two-wheel drive buggies. And apparently you can do that if you get the Tamiya DN01 or TF01 slipper clutch set. These slipper hubs should be able to mount onto this input shaft. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. I haven't tried it yet. As you can see, this is still in the package. But you can't actually take this whole assembly and put it into the Dynastorm gearbox, because this input shaft is completely different in terms of its length and how it mounts than this one. And for example, the top gear that goes in would be this gear right here. And initially I thought that I could just plug this whole thing in, but you can't, because this top gear is something like a 20-tooth. Oh, it even says it there. Is that 22? Yeah, this is a 20-tooth gear. Okay, and it's a Tamiya pitch gear, pretty sure. But this one here, which is the top gear for the Dynastorm, is 28 teeth. So unless I could find a 28-tooth version of this, I can't use all of this. Like, I can only use the slipper assembly on this guy, which means I'm restricted to using the stock gears, which is probably okay. So I have to get that together. The other piece is the differential. I don't have any real issues with the differential other than the fact that on this particular car, one of these outdrives is just blasted. You can see that section right there is really eaten away. And on the other side too, that's really eaten away, but it's only on one side. The other side is actually in very good condition. So I would like to find another set of diff halves, or whatever these are. I mean, Tamiya has a different name for them that's not outdrives. They might be like left and right half to the diff. I would like to get another set, because this is going to cause a lot of slop in the drivetrain on I think the left-hand side of the car. So either I have to find replacements for those, which I have not been able to do yet, or I have to mount a different kind of diff inside of this gearbox. Now, the Kyosho RB6 style ball diff looks like it's the correct size. I think the number of the teeth in the diff is the correct number of teeth, so that's good. But it's a 48 pitch gear. So probably what I would have to do is use the TRF 201 diff gear, okay, which I have here, and use the Kyosho internal diff parts and mount it to that diff. But the other problem is that the actual shape of this outdrive is different. These diff halves have the same diameter from the inside all the way to the outside. And this is 10 millimeters in diameter. This guy here, although the outside here might be about 10 millimeters, the inside is smaller. And so the type of bearing that you use here is different than what I would have to use there. What I would need to do is get a 10 by 12 bearing, if they even make those. So I have a 10 millimeter inner diameter that slots over this, and then it would fit to the 12 millimeter opening inside the housing here. So I have to see if that's even possible to get one of those bearings. If it is, then I can try to do this. If it's not, then I have to figure something else out, really, trying to beg somebody for diff halves without having to pay an arm and a leg for them. So right now, even if I get the slipper assembly all put together, I'm kind of stuck here with moving forward, unless I just want to accept this diff as it is and just throw it in and deal with the fact that, this side of the outdrive is a little bit chunky. But that's kind of where this build is. And I don't know. We'll see what I decide to do regarding the diff assembly. When I have time, I'll try a few things. But until then, that's it for now. So thanks for watching.